Welcome back to the Hill of Justice, and let's talk about the active death investigation of 18-year-old collegiate wide receiver Nolan Xavier Wells. What's began as an apparent search for a missing swimmer on Horn Island has evolved into a deeply complex legal dispute regarding trust, digital data manipulation, and high profile intervention. So now we have National Civil Rights Attorney Ben Crump, now formerly representing the Wells family, and he has bypassed the state of Mississippi entirely. With financial backing from former NFL quarterback Colin Kaepernick, the family has flown Nolan's body to Washington, D.C. for an independent secondary autopsy conducted by a medical examiner with zero ties to law enforcement. At a formal press conference, Ben Crump stated directly that the family is facing what he termed, and I quote, a serious trust issue with the ongoing local investigation. So when a family feels ignored or are desperate for answers, they fill the silence with independent investigators, press conferences, and outside legal teams. And that's what you're seeing here. Now, if you look at this from a strict investigative perspective, the collapse of trust between the family and law enforcement rarely happens because the police refuse to share evidence. It happens because it's a failure of procedural justice, specifically a failure to explain the process of how evidence is handled. We know we can't hand over the video. We can't give you unredacted cell phone dumps or witness statements during an active investigation without legally poisoning the case. If a witness statement leaks, of course, you got a defense attorney that can argue that the jury pool was tainted. Yet, we can't explain the mechanical process of it. And the right way to handle this is to immediately set up an initial briefing, sit down with the family and their representatives or lawyers, and map out the boundaries. Say something like, under state law, we cannot disclose witness names or active digital forensic files while this remains an open investigation. If we do, we risk a judge throwing out the evidence in court, which destroys our chances at justice. Here is exactly what we can share and how often we can meet. And here is who you'll call directly when you have a question. Don't BS them. Don't do it. That's no good. That's no bueno. You give them the how and you eliminate the suspicion of a cover up when protecting the what, at least for now. Okay. However, the fastest way to destroy trust is for the family to learn about a new development in their loved one's death by reading a headline or watching the local news. Use or set up a prior notice protocol. Save yourself the headache, establish a victim service advocate, or they're sometimes called providers or specialists or anything, or have the lead detective call the family an hour before the release goes live. All I'm saying is just do that. I'm just giving you a pro tip on that. And all you have to do or say is at this time, we are releasing a public bulletin asking for a cell phone footage of an altercation on Horn Island. We want you to hear it from us first so you know we are actively hunting for that footage. Boom. The rope the family has in getting the information, you've given it to them first before the public. And they will in theory go ahead and trust you. Okay? So that's probably the best way to handle that. But I will say this. We are trained to gather evidence, interrogate suspects, and build cases. We are crappy, and I mean, we are crappy and frequently terrible at managing intense emotional trauma of grieving families and friends. And when we sound cold and calculated and clinical, families interpret it as we don't care. We must do a better job of that. And that's my rant on that. Now, let's go back to the exact details that prompted this extraordinary measure by the family, because the new evidence moves past the timeline of the boat's broken bilge pump and directly into the digital forensics of a wiped cell phone. When Nolan Wells went missing on July 4th, 2026, the three individuals who traveled to the island with him returned to the mainland, leaving, I don't know how they happened, but they left him behind. They brought Nolan's physical cell phone back with them, which is a huge red flag. When the family recovered the device, they discovered a significant anomaly. It was Nolan's Snapchat accounts and location history that had been completely wiped clean. That's no good. Furthermore, the family notes that the recovered location data on the phone heavily conflicted with both the timeline provided by the witnesses and the physical reality of where Nolan was last seen. We live in an era where we have digital footprints, and those are the primary corroboration for witness statements. The deliberate erasure of any type of data like this from a deceased person's device is a massive red flag. Then there's the issue of physical violence. The Jackson County Sheriff's Department has officially adjusted its stance. Sheriff John Ledbetter issued a public directive explicitly requesting for anyone who was on the northwest part of Horn Island on the 4th of July to submit any available photos or videos. Specifically, the sheriff's office is hunting for footage depicting, and I quote on this end of it, the alleged altercations or containing images of or believed to include Nolan Wells. This formal request corroborates the existence of a specific viral cell phone video recorded on a crowded beach that afternoon. The footage appears to show a tense physical argument near the shoreline involving multiple individuals right where the boats were lined up. The defense or the local narrative will likely maintain that the video is coincidental and that Nolan's death remains a tragic, unobserved drowning. But the family's legal team is going to operate on a different hypothesis. And how they did that was by bringing in an independent forensic expert into Washington, D.C., and securing separate funeral home funding from filmmaker, I believe it was Tyler Perry. And the family is establishing a clear legal perimeter. And that's what they're doing. And they are treating the scene not as an accidental drowning, but as a potential crime scene where the physical body and the digital data were altered before law enforcement intervened. So we are currently waiting on the final documentation from the independent medical examiner in Washington, D.C. And this is to determine if the physical trauma matches the digital gap left behind on that phone. And we will track that autopsy results in the moments and the days ahead. And hopefully it's made public shortly. So let me know what your analysis of the deleted application data is in the comments below. What do you think will happen to these individuals right now? What do I think will happen? You'll find out in the comments below. This is Hill of Justice, and thank you for watching.
This is the Hill of Justice.